Well, friends, good evening. Thank you everyone for joining us again this week as we continue with our seminar on the Stone of the Sun. Last week when we covered part one, we took ourselves all the way into the Wheel of Days. This Wheel of Days is called the Tonalli, and the Tonalli is made of 20 specific days. This Wheel of Days happens to be the same thing as the Wheel of Destiny or the Wheel of Samsara, the Wheel of the Bhava Chakra, as it is known in Buddhism. And each one of these 20 days has a very specific meaning. And the meaning is very profound because not only there is the meaning based on the symbol that is captured as the identifier of the day itself, but there is also the meaning based on the number of the day. For those of you who have already completed that seminar in Tarot and Kabbalah, as we go through the 22 different arcana, you will see that each one of these days, the meaning of the number in terms of the arcanum and the meaning of the symbol in combination with the number, they give you an even deeper insight into the wisdom that is captured here. So last time we stopped at day number 13, and day number 13 is ACATL. ACATL is a cane. And as a cane, you can immediately imagine that this symbolizes the spinal column of the practitioner. Each one of the knots in the cane is a symbol of a vertebra. And we can see the different chambers through which the fire must rise. This cane indicating that there is some work that must be done with the fire and the spine, invites the practitioner to rise their fire, first off, to work on their conduct, on their ethics, so that they can become a superior type of practitioner, so that they can become not only more aware of their surroundings, but more capable on handling the different circumstances of life with emotional stability, with a good ability to adapt to change, with the ability to exercise quickness of thought, with the ability to dominate their most fiery passions. So this particular symbol, as you would remember that we were going back into the image of Tezcatlipoca in the Borgia Codex, just to see where is it that if Tezcatlipoca symbolizes a practitioner, where do we find the symbol? Well, notice that ACATL is present right in the forehead of Tezcatlipoca, as in that area where the third eye exists, out of which that divine light radiates and emanates. So here we find the fire of wisdom. The fire of wisdom, because it is the fire that allows us to see. It is the one that grants us the ability to hear beyond what the ears of the flesh can perceive. This is the fire that gives us that faculty of omniscience. So here we find ACATL. Day number 14 is OCELOTL. And OCELOTL is a jaguar or a tiger. And this symbol invites the practitioner to be agile, like the feline. If you ever had a cat and you have seen how your cat moves in very discreet and silent ways as it is ready to pounce, well, just like that, we have to develop our ability to see our psychological aggregates so that we can observe our thoughts and sentiments and reactions. Beyond that, OCELOTL invites that courage of the feline so that we may gain the strength and the valor that is necessary to face ourselves, to face all those many aspects that, well, if we're not justifying many aspects that we are just trying to hide within our subconsciousness, things of us that we would rather not see. Those are the defects that we must be more keenly aware of. And notice where we find OCELOTL. OCELOTL is part of the right foot of Tezcatlipoca. The right side, meaning the side of righteousness, the side that is guiding Tezcatlipoca for that righteous path of right thought, right action, and right sentiment. Day number 15 is QUIAHUITL. And QUIAHUITL is an eagle. The eagle is always a symbol of the Christ. As a symbol of the Christ, it is also a symbol of the forces of love. And you would not be surprised to see that when it comes to where do we find the eagle in Texcalipoca, it's very close to the ears. As in saying, listen to the higher voice. Listen to the voice of the innermost. Listen to the voice of love. If anything, this symbol is telling Texcalipoca, as a representation of the sincere practitioner, is do no harm. Do no harm to yourself, to your next of kin, to your family, to your children, to your neighbors. Simply embrace the principle of ahimsa. Day 16 is COXCACUAHTL. These names are a mouthful. COXCACUAHTL is a vulture. And we know that the vulture feeds itself from carcasses. It nourishes itself from rotting matter. It is part of those tamasic forces of nature that help bring all cycles to a completion. So because COXCACUAHTL devours the putrid, that gives you an immediate indication on what is the thing that is putrid within us that we should work to eliminate. And to no surprise, observe where the vulture appears in the image of Texcalipoca from the Borgia Codex. We already know that these arrows, these spears, they are all symbols of the sexual libido. And they are saying these are the instruments that you can use so that you can fight your adversaries. Defend yourself against your adversities by making use of this creative power and bring an end to those psychological aggregates. Day number 17 is movement. Here we find the rune OLLIN. And as a rune of movement, we find that this means earthquake. This is action. This is vibration. This is displacement, indicating that things, they are never still. Nothing remains still in nature. Everything is constantly vibrating. And here we see the rune of movement on the throat, on the mouth of Texcalipoca. It is indicating creative power. It is also indicating to remain watchful about the use that we give to the power of the word. Day number 18 is TECPATL. And TECPATL is a blade of obsidian. It is very sharp. It is a blade that is crafted under the pressures and the heat of the earth. And this sharp blade is a symbol of willpower. Remember that the motto of every sincere Gnostic student is telema. And it is the willpower that is necessary to enable us to make a sincere transformation. Notice where we find this willpower. It is located right there in the solar plexus. It is located right there in the close proximity of the heart. But in the solar plexus, it is indicating as your creative center, as this place where the ego gestates, where it grows and emerges when the consciousness enables its creation. Well, we have to use of our creative power to prevent that from happening. We have to work with this blade of obsidian to eliminate our weaknesses by carefully dissecting every one of our thoughts, by dissecting all of those memories that we bring in the exercise of retrospection, so that we can become truly aware of the things that we have been doing throughout the day. Day number 19 is QUIAHUITL. And QUIAHUITL is rain. This is life that is coming from us, from above. So as the water that nourishes the earth, also as the water with potential to bring famine and destruction, this one is very interesting. Because as we look at Texcalipoca, it is way ahead of him. It is leading the way. And as the nourishment that comes from above, well, we know that we have, other than the food stuff that we consume, the impressions that we must transform, the air that we must breathe. So here we see the symbol of water, as in saying, the divine help is what leads the way. If you are able to look ahead, and as you're looking ahead, you can transform those impressions. Those impressions become nourishment to your own soul. And the transformation of those impressions then leads into the transformation of man. Last, in this wheel of days, we find XOCHITL. And XOCHITL is a flower. The flower here is a symbol of the virtues, the faculties, the powers, the virtues of the innermost. And as such, it is the purpose of the great work. It is to see within the philosophical earth all of these superior faculties of the innermost germinating, sprouting, growing, and flourishing. And notice that this flower is emerging from the mouth of Tezcatlipoca. Speak of beautiful things. Make the right use of your creative power. So as you can see, this image that at first was so busy to the eyes, now that we have looked at it bit by bit, we can see how all of the wisdom that Samael has compiled in his 78 or so books and his thousands of hours of lectures is captured right here as a message to the consciousness. So observing the image of Tezcatlipoca, seeing yourself in that visualization as if that were you dressed with your battle gear as you go walking this path of life, you can then start seeing the indications of these symbols. Be emotionally stable, walk the path of righteousness, use your willpower, speak of beautiful things, don't give your ear to gossip, watch your sexual creative power, destroy your defects, transform your impressions. It is all here. It just needs a little bit of that meditation. This is what we see in the Tonalli. But now let's continue expanding towards the edges of the Aztec calendar. You will notice that there are some spikes that are radiating out of the calendar itself. Well, these happen to be the rays of the sun. Because just as the sun is that physical representation of the cosmic Christ, that is the divine Amon-Ra of the Egyptians, well, for the Aztecs, being also a serpentine culture, a culture that is rooted in the wisdom of fire, of Kundalini, well, here we see then the great sun. This is not only a symbol of the sun as that star in the sky that nourishes and brings life into everything. This sun is also a symbol of that inner star that guides us. As it is stated in the Hermetic tradition, keep your heart focused on your inner star and your eyes looking at your feet as you're walking the path of life that is initiation. So notice that we have a very specific number of rays that are radiating out of this particular sun. And that number is 8. This 8, it means many things. Because there are 2 groups of 4. Certainly, that number 2 in those 2 groups of 4 indicates masculine and feminine forces that must come together in harmony. The number 8 is telling us of tests, of patience, voluntary sufferings. It is telling us that we need to learn to be resilient. But it is also telling us that there will come a time in which you will have to generate your own light. That means that your innermost, your divine mother, they will continue guiding your steps. But you would have accumulated enough wisdom to go out there and deal with things applying what you have learned the same way that happens when you have to take a final test at the end of your semester and that you have to take a bar examination at the end of you completing your academic career. This is saying generate your own light. And now let's look at the space right there in between the rays of the sun as well. These particular rays, as we combine them, they create the shape of the cross. But notice that there are two crosses. There is the Tau cross that we are so familiar with. This cross that amongst the Egyptians was a symbol of fertility, that it was also a symbol of sacrifice, as we see the great master Jeshua as he goes through his ultimate sacrifice. But there is also a cross in the shape of an X. That is symbol of the very same cross where Saint Andrew was crucified. Both of these crosses indicate that there has to be action, that the action invites transmutation, and because there are two of them, well, that transmutation has to do with the association of ideas. It has to do with how we relate with others. It has to do with the love that we express for our family, specifically for our spouse. And of course, it speaks of the mystery of the super dynamic of love. If we observe these two crosses, we will see that they are a cross in motion, as if it were spinning. And that spinning cross is the rune Gibur. It's the very same swastika that we see in the heart of the Buddha. Now, some people may see that and they will become scandalized, like, oh my God, a swastika in the heart of the Buddha. What is this? Well, notice in the direction that this cross is spinning. As you observe the swastika in the heart of the Buddha, you can see that the cross is leaving a shadow behind because it is spinning in the direction of the hands of the clock. It is spinning clockwise as we're looking at it from the front. Hopefully you can see that. Now, the other swastika, the one that was used by those dark armies to bring the Holocaust and so much destruction into the world. Now that is a swastika, but that swastika is spinning in the opposite direction. It is the antithesis of this one. It is the shadow of this one. And we're not interested in that one. We are interested in this positive creative force that has the power and the faculty to transform us. Okay, so now that we saw those rays of the sun, then let's look at what is happening on the extreme edge of this particular calendar. I'm going to give you a second, and as you trace your eyes, you will see that there are two serpents that are coming together at the very bottom, and that those two faces are confronting each other. They are contemplating each other. This serpentine binary meaning two, is of name CIUCOATL. Coatl is serpent. And these two serpents, well, one is a symbol of the fire of Kundalini. The other one is a symbol of our Kunda buffer organ. Now we know, as we have learned in our other lectures in pre-chamber, that the Kunda buffer organ was given to this humanity because at the time that human beings received this organ as a tail in the physical body, the whole purpose was to enable that humanity to develop a different type of relationship with the realm of substance. Back then, at those times in the early period of Lemuria, well, the cortex of the planet was still not stabilized. And because the planet was still going through such dramatic changes, well, those beings were incarnating. They were noticing that there were too many dangers, and they were simply abandoning their bodies and returning into the higher realms of creation. The lack of those human bodies was affecting the ability of the planet to continue making progress. Because we as human beings, together with the rest of the organic matter that exists in the outer crust of the planet, we receive of these cosmic vibrations and we transform them with our physical bodies and deliver them to the planet in a way that the planet can digest them. So those beings, well, abandoning their bodies. Solution for that, based on the works of Archangel Sakaki and his other angels, well, they gave humanity the Kunda buffer organ. But Samael tells us there was a mathematical mistake. That organ remained for too long in the physical bodies. And even though it was removed, the long-term effects of the Kunda buffer organ remain within the 5 cylinders of the human machine. And what does that mean? It means that whether it is on an intellectual level, or on a sentimental level, or on a sexual level, or instinctively, or in terms of how we exercise and use our physical body, we have developed an attraction, some kind of strange fascination with this realm of substance. And yes, we know this. We can see today are many aggregates of vanities and ambitions and this desire to have. Yeah, that's all part of this. So here we see that Kunda buffer organ. Now, Kundalini. Kundalini is a word of Atlantean origin that means lini, end of the Kunda, the end of the Kunda buffer organ. And these are the two serpents that are indicating the constant battle between light and darkness, the constant necessity to exercise willpower over temptation. This is what these two serpents are telling us. These two serpents are Tonatiuh and XIUCOATL. Now, whom of this is Tonatiuh? Well, you guessed it. If you saw the QUIAHUITL, the little piece that is going through the nose, well, yes, that is Tonatiuh. And the other one is XIUCOATL. They are both facing each other. Notice that these two serpents, they have their jaws open and they are consuming these two men. One of them will consume the man and take the man and turn it into an adept, into a master. The other one will consume the man and will lead the man down the path of the second death. Notice that Tonatiuh has an element of water behind it. That is the use of the creative waters. The other one is missing that water, and it is missing it because that water has been spilled. That water has been wasted. It has been used to feed the ego. But notice that from the jaws of the serpent, there is an extension that is showing 7 half-open eyes. The number 7 here speaks of willpower. It speaks of victory. But it speaks of a victory that is based on tremendous sacrifice. It is the victory that comes after a very arduous battle in the battlefield, conflicts of war. That is what the 7 means. And the eyes are half open because they are showing contemplation. They're indicating the need for alert novelty, alert perception. They're inviting for us to be watchful, not only of our body, but how do we use our energy, how we are expressing our emotions, how we are thinking. They're inviting us to consider how is it that we are at cause over life. Are we like a log that is being dragged by the currents of the river, or are we navigating within the river? It is inviting us to observe. How is it that we are contributing in this greater work towards the necessities of the innermost? It's asking of us to observe of our relationship with our individual Atman. This is what these two serpents are showing us. And The number 13 is very interesting because you will see that at the very top, we have once again the symbol of the cane, atl. But this atl is not alone. This comes with the 13. 13 atl or 13 cane. That 13 comes from the number of spheres that you can count there. Those 13 spheres, they mean so many things. Because those 13 spheres are the 10 spheres of the tree of life. Going from the very bottom where we have the realm of substance, walking into the space of the region of the magic of nature where we have 3 other spheres. We have the sphere of the astral plane, the sphere of vitality, and the sphere of the mental plane. We move into a higher region where there are 3 other spheres. That is the realm of creation. Wow. That is the realm of the innermost, where we have the spheres of the human soul, the spiritual soul of the innermost, and the realm of the innermost itself. And beyond that, a last triangle where we find the crown of life. Those are 10. But beyond those 10, then we find 3 other spheres. And those 3 other spheres exist beyond any consideration, any mental formation that we may have about whatever we may think that God is. Those are the Ein Sof, Aur, the ray of creation, the Ein Sof, the unmanifested abstract space, and the Ain, the uncreated light. These 13 spheres are 13 eons. These are, as it is known in that great writing called the Pistis Sophia, these are the 13 repentances of Pistis Sophia. This 13 indicates that we can complete the work when we have achieved the ultimate Buddhist annihilation. When within us there is no longer, not just the ego, but the root of the ego is gone. The seeds of the ego are calcinated. There is nothing but the memories in the memory records of nature of all of those. The only thing that is left is the wisdom that comes from the experience. This is the realm of the Paramartasatyas. Those are the great masters that not only are perfect masters, but they are masters of perfection. And they are the ones who have achieved the highest degree of wisdom. Those are the ones who can experience the absolute reality. And that absolute reality, in case you ever wonder, what is that? What is that is so real? Well, the absolute reality are all of those things exactly as they are understood within the mind of the all. Wow, that is so amazing. Now that we have seen what is at the edge, because this is a 3-dimensional monolith, there are adornments that are on the side along the very edge of the stone of the sun itself. And this is known as the song of the stone or the chant of the stone. You will see that this is made by different flowers and different butterflies and many different spheres. And these are symbols that repeat themselves throughout the edge of the stone of the sun. These butterflies are a symbol of the planet Venus. And Venus, well, you already know it's love. Venus, also with its archetype, Archangel Uriel, well, that is the form of God, which is known as the love of God. He influences everything that has to do with love and affinity and magnetism. So we are seeing here butterflies as a symbol of love. And we are seeing those flowers as virtues. So if you were to imagine every one of those dots, every one of those little spheres as a different, distinct part of the being. What are those? Some time ago in our first chamber, we spoke about the quote-unquote 49 parts of the being. Being is made of many, many parts. 49 is a beautiful number because Kabbalistically it adds up to 13. We already saw the 13 here. But when we're speaking about the 49 parts of the being, we are saying that the being above, just as here, below, well, is made of non-being things. Our being, well, is an integration of many intelligences. And in our being, in my being, in your being, we find the representation of the 24 elders of the constellations of the zodiac. We also find the 12 salts, the 12 metals, the 12 apostles. We also find the 7 degrees of fire. In our innermost, we find the 4 devas of nature. We find our guardian angel, Morpheus, the god of dreams, Minerva, the goddess of wisdom. We find so many other parts. So all of these things make up the innermost. Each one of those little spheres represents one of those different parts. And each one of them, we can see that they irradiate love and they manifest faculties. Those faculties, powers and virtues, bodies and laws are represented by all of those flowers. And you will see that those flowers as well, they have a sliced seashell. That seashell is the shell of Quetzalcoatl. It is the shell that symbolizes the presence of the cosmic Christ. It is the one that enables the work. It is what becomes the foundation of the Savior inside of us that is seeking to save us. This is then the chant of the stone. And the Tlamantimin, who are the ancient wise men of the Mexica, they had a beautiful prayer. And we would like to complete this 2-part seminar, leaving you this prayer so that you can receive it in your hearts if you choose to do so, and that you can reflect deeply in the meaning of every word. And the great masters used to say, "May the suns of enthusiasm illuminate your path. May the shkok sing before your ways. May the fireflies of wisdom illuminate your intellect. May the murmurous picker grant you shade for your rest. May the emerald frogs show the way with their never-ending croak. And may she, nature, be prodigious with thee. May the universal force guide you and bless you." So, dear friends, this is what we wanted to share with you as part number 2 on the secret message of the Stone of the Sun. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here with us this evening, and may all beings be happy.